Girl, you don't need no more degrees. You need a hobby. Go sit down.
Welcome to Lost Girl Therapy. Go back and watch that entire video because it is so spot on and it is the epitome of what I experienced. I am the poster child of somebody who did the absolute impulse masters in order to not figure out who I was. And to set the scene, I was 22 and I was in a job that I had taken out of college and I just didn't like it and I knew it didn't fit, but I also didn't know who I was or where I was going or what I was doing. And I desperately wanted someone to tell me who to become or how to live life and figure it out in order to be happy or successful or just feel better. And I spent the better part of like a year and a half just working in this industry, hating it and trying to like mimic other people or trying to find mentors, because that's really like the buzzword when you come out of college. It's like find a mentor and then you'll be fine. But the background to that is we are looking for people to anchor to in order to ease the anxiety about the uncertainty of where our lives are going, because there's no rule book. There's no one way to do life. One of the biggest things that we end up doing, and in my case, it was like so stereotypical, I became so anxious and so fearful about not feeling in control of my life that I went back to the only thing that I could make sense of, which was school. I impulsively applied to a master's. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. But in my head, I was like, this is the escape plan. This is the way that I get out of this industry, because quitting would be so shameful. Leaving by choice would be so fear-inducing that I could not handle it. So I am going to find something that looks really impressive and that nobody can question. And that's the way that I'm going to get out of this. And the second part of my thought process, which was really just shaped on like immaturity, lack of awareness, not really liking who I was or where my life was going, was that I could do school. It made sense to me. I knew how to follow the rules. I knew how to do the classes. I knew how to finish the assignments. I could follow the structure of school. And if I followed the structure of school, I never needed to check in on myself and say, are you doing okay? And the structure of school allowed me to completely suppress or dissociate from all of the anxiety that I had about the woman that I was becoming. And I knew from the moment that I got in that it wasn't something that I should do, but I went through with it because I had told so many people about it. And I had so much fear and so much shame about like, if you don't do this, what becomes of you? It felt like I would be purposeless. It felt like I would be worthless if I didn't do this. And so I went through with it and it was brutal. I didn't like the program. I didn't like what I was learning. I struggled through it. I was working full time. I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I had to take a semester off just to like maintain my mental health. I struggled through that entire master's. And it wasn't even a master's that allowed me to do what I do now. It wasn't a licensed master's. So I did developmental psych and I learned a lot about 0 to 18. And I came out of that master's saying, what do I do with this degree? You can't change industries because you're not qualified. You'd have to go for a PhD or you have to go for a second master's. And in my case, I was so burnt out that that was the last thing I wanted to do. So the master's that I tried to use to escape myself, my anxiety, my industry, literally forced me back into that space because I couldn't do anything with it. So when I went back to go find jobs, I didn't go into the psych field. I went back into an industry. I became the project manager and I still hated it. And I was still unhappy and I still wasn't sure of who I was or where I was going or what I wanted to do with my life. So if you have the option between working through the anxiety and the fear and finding the courage and just taking life as it comes and not doing the impulsive masters, do that. Because when we do the impulsive masters, we're just delaying the inevitable. We are accumulating accolades that may or may not be relevant in our lives a few years from now, but they may also be preventing us from figuring out who we are trying to become or where we want our lives to go. If you have done self-discovery, if you are in a space where you say, like, I know I don't like this industry, I know I really like this industry, and I require a master's or a higher degree to get there, do it. That's the best reason to do a master's. If you do a program, whether it's a master's, a certification, a licensure, that allows you to change your career trajectory, that allows you to build the life that you want, go for it. But if we're utilizing the master's or academia as the escapism, as the ability to say, like, I'm just not ready to know who I am and I'm actually just gonna focus on this, it will always come back. There will always be a time, I call it the reckoning. There will always be a moment of reckoning where we say, I can no longer outrun myself. I have to figure out who I am. And that's a really hard day, but it's also one of the most meaningful things that you can ever do. And if you can do that when you are younger, if you can do that when you have more flexibility, if you can do that when you have the ability to take risks and take chances because you don't have other people that you need to take care of, because you have the financial flexibility to do so, do it. My regret is doing that first master's. It is useless to my career. And I wish that I had spent time and energy wading through the emotional distress, the anxiety, the fear, and building resiliency and courage, because I think it would have improved my personal trajectory. It might have improved my career, I don't know, but I think it would have improved my maturity level and my personal trajectory by years. It also would have increased my ability to handle uncomfortable situations, navigating stress, processing my own feelings, handling emotional regulation in a healthy manner. There's a lot of benefits to figuring out who you are, where you're going, and who you want to become. Do the hobbies, find the friends, join the communities, build the support. Don't use academia as the escape route, because you cannot outrun yourself.